Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the 2Us of 2Us Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at 2usfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our 2Us Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Marsha.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Good.
Yeah. Busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm doing well.
Good.
But before we get started, I just want to give a thank you to all of the listeners who private messaged me on Ravelry and made nice comments in the thread about my mom's passing and sending condolences. It was very nice. I really appreciated it. And I actually, some of the listeners that actually have my address sent me nice cards too. So
nice.
It was very, very nice. It was very nice to get all of that. So
it's a good group of people. We have a good group of people.
A good group of people, and it's quite a community. You don't really realize that we've created a community, even though some of the people we've not met, but we feel so connected to them, even though we've not met face to face. So I really appreciate the nice sympathies and condolences. I really appreciate it. So, yeah.
Well, I really liked what you posted and the pictures that you posted.
Oh, yeah?
In the Ravelry group. It's funny because I think probably our listeners are of all ages. But those of you of a certain age will know about family slides. And since I've known Marsha for so long and spent so much time with her family, I was privileged to be able to be there on a couple of different occasions where they hauled out the family slideshow. The projector and the slide carousels. And so those photos were all pictures that I recognized. And I actually, kind of feel like I was there through some of the stuff that your family did when you were young, because I've seen the pictures and I've seen the slideshows.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see those pictures.
There were so many things I kind of wanted to say, and one of the things is that picture of my mom, where we're all sitting on the sofa and Dave is laying across us. I remember when we took that picture, we actually had taken kind of a nice one of us all sitting on the sofa. I think he took that picture with a timer on his camera.
Oh, okay.
And we're all sitting there, and then he said, I'm going to take a second one. And he goes to take a second one, and he immediately just jumps on us and lays on us like that. It was so funny. And my mother laughing. Anyway, but I said that's oftentimes, most of the photographs I have of Pody is laughing like that. And she always would get so irritated when the pictures would come back, because she'd always be laughing or talking or
mouth wide open,
and then big, double chin kind of, because that's not the most flattering picture, mouth wide open and then all the double chin. But that's how I remember her. Was always just laughing about something. So
yes,
anyway.
A lot of laughing, that's true.
Yeah. Anyway, so very nice.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, but we have some things to talk about. Some events that are underway and upcoming.
Yeah, really exciting. The next little while is busy, chock full. Yeah. In fact, Marsha and I were talking before we started recording about how we're going to fit everything in. All the normal day-to-day stuff that has to happen, how it's all going to get done. And we're still going to be able to do these events. But anyway, our first one.
I was going to say we would sort of like to abdicate from our lives so we could just go do fibery things, right?
Yeah, let's just focus on events. Forget about the real life stuff.
Yeah.
I just want fun events. Oh, you know what else? I had a fun event last weekend. I posted a lot of pictures on Instagram, speaking of events, of being away for the weekend for my birthday in Monterey, and that was really fun.
Well, I saw the pictures, and we talked briefly, and it looked pretty cool because your room was right on the bay.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah, right on the bay with a little balcony, and so we got to watch otters and listen to seals. And there was one seagull that every time we went out on the balcony, and then of course they have all this bird mitigation, like wires,
trying to keep them off the balconies
to keep the birds away, off of all the places where birds would perch. And of course, here comes this one seagull, totally ignores the wires that are supposed to be keeping him away, and lands right there. Every time we went out on the little patio, he would fly over and sit there. Be like, well, hello, where have you been? What were you just doing? We'd have a long conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had a good time. It was beautiful weather, and I think we may be in for some really nice weather during Stitches too. Okay. It's still a ways out, so it's hard to say for sure, but yeah, I think it's going to be good. So Stitches is.
So are you telling me I should bring shorts?
I don't know about shorts. Robert actually brought shorts when we went to Monterey. Neither one of us actually wore them, but it was nice. It was in the mid to high 70s. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think like the 76, 77 lasted for maybe an hour if you were in the very full sun. It's not.
I will not be bringing shorts.
Yeah,
then.
It's not like it's not like a summer day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Stitches is February 22nd through 25th, and we're going to be there. And I'm taking a class on Saturday, an Argyle class, which I'm really excited about. No, not Saturday, Friday. An Argyle class, which I'm really excited about. And then on Saturday is a meetup in the lobby of the hotel, the conference hotel. So I hope to meet a lot of people that I haven't met before. I'm sure there will be lots of people that I already have met, kind of the Stitches usual regulars,
Mm-hmm. It was fun last year. We met a lot of people that were listeners that we had not met before, so that was really nice.
So if any of you are going to be at Stitches, look for us.
And don't be shy.
No,
say hi.
That's true. Yeah, definitely don't be shy. Yeah. And if you don't see us on the market floor, you might see us sitting and knitting in the hotel lobby, and definitely on Saturday afternoon. I think it starts around 1:30 or 2 o'clock. It's hosted, kind of loosely hosted, by the two Knitlit chicks, Barb and Tracy, and the Yarniacs, Gail and Charlene. They are the ones who organized it. And actually, they do a pretty good job of making sure they say hello to everyone and host it. But it's not like a formal thing. It's, people just show up and hang out and knit and have something to eat or drink or not, and show off what they bought, or talk about what they're planning to buy,
or get ideas on what to buy. Because I actually I spent more money than I had planned on because I started talking to people and saw the really cool things they bought, and then went back and found it and bought it. So, yeah. So it's really fun, and it's a few hours of where we're all sort of hanging around in the lobby area of the hotel. So if people are going to be at Stitches and they have time on that afternoon, I would really encourage them to come by and say hello. It'd be great to meet people or to see people that we've already met. Mm-hmm. So that's February. That's our big event in February. And then in March, we have Cast On in March, finished by May 1st. The Sheep Thrills, Knit Along, Crochet Along. Do you know what you're making? No. But I have time, right?
Yeah. Well, I haven't decided either quite.
Well, I think I talked about this before, but the two things I'm thinking of making is that the sheep pillow that looks like the little baubles that make the wool. I'm thinking of that. And then also And Kelly, remember that? What's the name of that hat with the sheep going around the rim?
The bobble hat, but bobble like BAAH.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other one is bobble as in knitted baubles.
So I have those two favorited, and that's what I'm kind of thinking of.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, there's been some people making comments and putting some ideas up in the thread on the Ravelry group for that knit along. And also, I have a bundle, and there have been a few additions to the bundle in the last couple weeks that I've noticed that are really fun. So, if you need some ideas of sheep patterns, there are an awful lot. If you go into Ravelry pattern search and just put in sheep, there's more than you could ever imagine. So
yeah, so I'm going to look at the bundle though, and I may change my mind. But that's kind of what I'm thinking of right now.
Okay,
I'll probably get inspiration from other people.
Yeah. Well, and then the third thing, also in March, is your big event.
My big event. So people already know this, but I'm going with my friend Kim. We're going to the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and that's March 15th through 17th. And I think we leave the 9th of March, and we're going to have the first week in Edinburgh, and then after the Yarn Festival, we're going to go out in the countryside. And I think the plan right now, and it may change, is we'll rent a car and drive around. But anyway, I'll be there. We're both going to be at the Podcasters Lounge. Now, having said that, I'm not really sure how all of this works. There really is no schedule on the website. So I know there's a Podcasters Lounge. I know there's the Marketplace. I know there's some other events. Like I got a notice that there's fringe events taking place on Sunday after the festival's officially over with. And I know they just added, it looks like they just added on the website, I can't pronounce it, but we were looking at it and it's a dance, but that's sold out. So, anyway, if people have ideas about things to do, or if they know more about the schedule, you could, post something in the thread, or you could message me, or it'd be nice to post in the discussion thread if anybody actually, let me say too, if anybody's going, is going to be at the Edinburgh, that'd be really nice to know, and we could meet up at the festival. And if you have ideas about what's going on at the festival, that would be great too.
Yeah, because I've heard of the Podcaster Lounge, but I sort of assumed it was kind of like the Saturday meetup at Stitches, where, kind of
that's
just a space for informally getting together. But then I noticed that there are sort of official podcasters,
right?
Who are are they like the hosts? I don't know what
I'm
their
not really
role
sure.
is.
I know there was an application process that they had to go through, and they were selected quite a while ago. They were selected. And then what they do with the lounge, I don't know. Yeah.
What is their role? I'm curious.
I don't know what their role is. I don't know what's going to happen at the podcasters meetup. I don't know. And
I don't think it's just for podcasters to meet other podcasters. I think it's for people who are listeners to.
Yeah, for people to meet podcasters.
I think. Right. And other listeners. So, but I'd be interested to know.
So I'll find out.
Yeah.
But if anybody knows, it'd be great to put something in the discussion thread. Because...
enlighten us.
Yeah. Enlighten us, please. Yes.
And then we can spread the word, too,
Yeah.
At our next episode.
But I'm excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be really fun.
We've got our flight from, Seattle to Heathrow booked. The flight from Heathrow to Edinburgh booked. We've got our hotel booked. We're going to when we come back, we're going to take the train back to London because we want to see the scenery. Mm-hmm. I figured on the way up we'll be so exhausted we just want to get there. But
right.
We have that planned, and then we're sort of figuring out what we're going to do after the Yarn Festival. Mm-hmm. We'll do woolly, sheepy things and spirit things too. A little tasting of spirits.
Oh.
We're going to drink wee drams all over the place.
Oh, good. Have a few wee drams
as
for
we
me.
say, multiple wee drams.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
All right.
So is that it for events?
Yeah, I think so. At least through March.
Yeah.
And then we'll...
So, should we talk a little bit about projects?
Yeah, a very little bit.
I know, I have very little. So who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So I am continuing to knit on Indigo Frost. I did quite a bit of knitting on it during the weekend that Robert and I were away, sitting out, watching the bay and knitting on Indigo Frost. And then on Saturday night, so we were there Friday and Saturday night. On Saturday night, we were sitting in the lobby, and I had a Manhattan, I will admit, but I don't think it was the Manhattan. I think it was actually conversation. Oh, in fact, I got into a conversation with someone who is a knitter. She came over and she said, she asked me about what I was knitting, and she's like, oh my gosh, she was kind of a beginner. She said, I can't knit in a setting like this. I have to actually concentrate. And I said, well, eventually you do get so you can, this is what I was saying, so you can knit in a setting like this, and it's fine. And then shortly after she and I talked and she left, I realized that I had gotten off, and my holes were now sort of jogged over in one section. Luckily, I have stitch markers, so, in that one section, I had missed something about 8 rows back. But the rest of it was fine. So the next day, I decided that I didn't want to rip it back. I wanted to think about it. And so I pulled out, luckily I had brought another project with me. I did bring my linen sweater, the Summer Fjord.
Oh, right.
So I got about an inch, another inch put on that Summer Fjord on Sundays. The rest, on Sunday, while, doing different things and knitted a few more rows. And so, about an inch on that, which was good. That's been put away for a while. I haven't done anything with it. I had to drag the pattern off of my phone. But luckily I had brought it. I was thinking I would cast on something new, but I didn't get that organized. Too much was happening for me to have a plan for what I was going to do that was new. So I just grabbed that as we left, and I was glad I did. I got to add some to it, and also having gotten back working on it, the weather's nicer now. I'm kind of excited to get that one done too. So those are my only 2 projects: this Indigo Frost and the linen Summer Fjord sweater. And I'm just kind of at the same place in both. They're both at about maybe 2 to 3 inches above where they need to be for me to start the actual finishing part, the ribbing at the bottom. So they're both pretty much at exactly the same place. But then getting back to my mistake.
Yes.
When we came home, you probably saw the pictures on Instagram. Or maybe I texted them to you. Between the 2 stitch markers, I backed it down 8 rows. So I was outside. It was nice and sunny. I had a lot of light. I got myself a binder clip to sort of hang off of the yarn that I wasn't using, so they'd be out of the way. And I just ripped out 8 rows, but just between the 2 stitch markers. Oh. So I did.
Wait a minute. So there's knitting on the right and left side of the stitch markers?
Yes.
Oh.
So I did was I dropped the stitches that were between the 2 stitch markers, and I went back 8 rows. So I have 8 threads, right? 8 long strings.
Oh, right.
And so then I put 7 of the top 7 of them in the binder clip, hung them off the back of the table, laid the knitting on the table flat so I could see it, and figure out like, okay, wait, here's where my yarn over knit 2 together needs to go. Oh yeah, here's what I did. I went 9 stitches instead of 8. Oh, okay, that's my mistake. And put it on double points. I think I had 3 double points to span the section because I wanted it each double point to be this like an 11 stitch repeat. So I had, two repeats on each of the 3 double points. So like 22 stitches on each. And then I just knit with the yarn that I had pulled out. And it was actually like regular knitting, at first. And then the closer you get to the end, it's more like when you have to pull stitches up, like a drop stitch. I had a crochet hook to do that. At the very last couple of stitches, you have to kind of finagle with the crochet hook instead of, I'm a thrower. So there's not enough yarn to throw around the the needle. But so I did that and then, carefully found the next layer of yarn, right? The next strand. I've done this before where I crossed them, got them out of order, and it doesn't work. So I was very careful this time to make sure that I had them in the right order, kept the others weighted down with the binder clip, and it was quick to put them back. So, I was
So
knitting.
this was just a small section of like how many stitches is the whole
the whole
poncho now?
thing is like 300. I want to say like 320 something.
Okay, so it would have been taking you so much more time just to unravel the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, this is very, very clever.
I didn't make this up. Oh,
you didn't?
No. I followed for a long time, since 2008 or something. I've been following the Rainy Sisters blog, and I don't read it super regularly now, but I was pretty much part of my morning reading for a long time, and they showed this, and it was like a revelation to me that you could just take a section of your knitting apart and then reknit it. And so, I don't know, I think I've done it maybe 4 or 5 times.
Wow.
With varying levels of success and varying levels of complexity in the pattern. This one was pretty successful because all it was knit so many stitches, yarn over knit 2 together, knit so many stitches.
Right, but if you were doing some kind of lace, it would be...
You'd need to know, if it's a more complicated lace pattern, you need to be super clear about which row you're on, and and then it's harder to do that knitting, but it's still possible, and it doesn't actually get to be tricky until you get to the last few stitches, because then that yarn is too short to actually pretend it's regular yarn.
Right.
At the beginning, at least mine, because I had like 66 stitches, I think, that I ripped out. 8 rows, 66 stitches. At the beginning, there was enough yarn that, even though it's connected at the other end, you can't really tell it's connected at the other end. So you can just pretend it's like a strand of yarn you'd normally knit with. But then by the time you get to the last, 3 or 4 stitches, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So the thing is it's pretty low stakes, right? Because worst case scenario,
you rip it whole thing out.
Yeah, you make a mess of that little section and you have to rip the whole thing out. Or you just don't take the chance and you rip the whole thing out. So, the worst case scenario is the same either way.
Right.
And I would much preferred only having to rip 66 stitches times 8 rows than 300 stitches times 8 rows.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend it as a technique. And I suppose if you really wanted to just sort of do it as a challenge to make sure you were comfortable with it, you could do it with a swatch. Next swatch you make, just take out the middle 5 or 6 or 8 stitches and
and then just
drop them down.
Yeah. And then what you do is you knit across, like, from right to left, and then just go back and knit again
from right to left, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Yeah. It really is pretty cool. And the one I saw on the Rainy Sisters blog, she actually used a blocking mat to like keep all the threads, the ones that you, like each thread that you rip out, she would then pin it. So it was like in a triangle shape. Mm-hmm. And then the next one was in a triangle shape, a little bit off and a little bit. With this, I didn't have to, I could very clearly see which one was the next yarn to use. But if you need to keep them out of the way in a more organized way than just binder clipping them all and hanging them off the back of the table, you can actually pin those yarns to your, like, to the blocking mat. Mm-hmm. And so, it's not super comfortable to sit there and knit like over a table because that's right. It's not like you're sitting with your knitting on your lap, but it's way better than having to rip so many stitches.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway,
very clever.
That's my adventure. Adventures in social knitting. And this particular pattern that just has me, it's easy enough that I forget to pay attention.
Yeah.
It's that
yeah.
That level of ease that lulls you into not paying attention. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, I'm making good progress and don't have much to go. I think I'll be done. My goal is to have this done for stitches.
Well, I was going to ask if it was going to be done for stitches, so.
That's my goal. If it's not done to wear at stitches on Thursday, I'll see if I can get it done at stitches and wear it unblocked. Gasp.
Okay.
Well, and I'm not going to guarantee that my buttons are going to be on in the collar because I'm doing afterthought buttonholes, and I don't know that I'm not going to commit to being done with that.
Well, and tell everybody about the buttons.
Oh, yeah. So back in January, I cheated and called my blue cardigan it's the Curious Case of the Crazy Stitch Cardigan by Michelle Dunaire. I called that done because it's all the crocheting's done. It's wearable. In fact, I wore it twice this week, but it doesn't have buttons on it yet because I was sure I had the right buttons, but I didn't have time to go searching through my pretty extensive button stash. So the other day I was thinking, I should look, but I don't really have time to dump this jar out and then sort through all of them. I have a whole mason jar full of really interesting blue buttons, and then I have other blue buttons, and so I was thinking about that, and then I was going through. So I was looking at the mason jar, kind of through the glass at things, and then I thought, I wonder if the cardboard box that I have with all the buttons that are all strung together on thread, if that would have anything, because that would be easy because they're all sorted already. So I started looking there, and then all of a sudden I remembered the button tin that I brought home from your house last January.
Yeah.
And I didn't remember if there was anything in it that would work, but I thought, there were some cute ones in there. And so I opened it up, and lo and behold, there are 4 buttons. They're white with the exact right color of blue daisies. They're so cute. And there were 4. At first, I only saw 2. And I thought, darn it, there's only 2 of these. And then there was because they were on a card. And then there was a third one that was not on a card. It was just loose. And I thought, okay, well, I guess I maybe could just do 3 at the top. That was a look a while back. And then all of a sudden I see there's a 4th one in there that was upside down. I didn't recognize it. Like, oh my gosh, I've got 4 buttons. So I think 4 is going to work fine for the number. And they're so cute.
I was thinking about those buttons, and I think my mother bought those for a jumper for me.
Oh, really?
Because she made all my clothes,
Yeah.
and I think they were for a jumper, and I don't think she never used them. Or maybe she used two of them, and then and got rid of the jumper and
took the buttons
put the
off.
buttons back in the box or something.
I think that's probably true because the two buttons that are not on the card are like on safety pins. Like maybe they were even just pinned onto the jumper, not sewn.
Probably.
I know because I know people used to do that. In fact, there were pins that used to have a little bump in them.
Yeah.
So you could actually use them to hold your buttons in.
Yeah, and then take them off when you wash the garment.
Yeah. So I was really excited to find those, and I haven't put them on yet, but that sweater's coming with me to Stitches. And I can't remember if I washed it. I'll wash it again probably. I can't remember if it ever got washed and blocked.
I don't think it did. I mean,
yeah, I don't remember. I think I called it done, and then I would have washed it before I put the buttons. Honestly, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I found the perfect buttons, so
good.
I love my button stash. Yes. And thank you for the tin of Podie's buttons that I got last
welcome.
January.
I was happy that they went to a home other than mine. Anyway, the spirit buttons, one person's junk is another person's treasure, right?
That's exactly right.
So, anyway.
Spirit buttons.
Yes.
So what about your knitting? That's the sum total of mine.
I've been making progress. So I've been working on the Opteka, the pullover by Isabel Kramer, and I finished the first sleeve this morning. I bound off the first sleeve.
Nice.
I'm going to the beach this weekend, so I'll have some hours in the car going down and then hours sitting around in the house. So I'm hoping I can get a good amount of work done on the sleeve. And what I would like to do is have it done for Stitches. I mean, I have the time at the beach to get it done, and then I'm coming down. I'll be at your house I arrive the weekend before Stitches start, so I'll have time to knit then too. So I probably will get it done before Stitches.
Oh yeah,
and
you may not be able to wear it at Stitches because it may be too warm.
I know. Oh well. I need a goal.
But having it done for that will be nice, yeah.
Yeah. But we were talking, the last episode we were talking about techniques, things we've learned about sweaters. Mm-hmm. And actually, maybe I talked about this. Did I talk about under the arm? I think I did. Picking up an extra stitch?
Yeah. We were talking about what you do to get a little bit more width, but go ahead.
Because maybe I hadn't started the sleeve the last time we recorded. Anyway, I'll make my point, and maybe it's redundant, but it's a top-down raglan. And when you go and you pick up those stitches that are on the waist yarn, right, of the sleeve stitches, and then you go on under the arm, you pick up, in this case, you pick up 5 stitches, put a marker to mark the center of the sleeve, and then 5 more stitches. Mm-hmm. And then, knit around and then start your decreases. Well, the pattern says if you want, what you can do is you can actually pick up 6 stitches on either side of the marker. So now you have 12, right, instead of 10. And then the very next round that you go around, you knit that first 1 and 2 stitches together, knit across, and knit what would be 11 and 12 together. Does that make sense? So then so you're back down to 5 on each side. And what it does is sometimes when this happens to me with sleeves, also happens with socks. Sometimes you get a little hole there that you have to go back and finish. And so there's no hole.
Okay. Yeah. So in between where you have your waist yarn and you picked up stitches, there's often a gap. That's what you're talking about.
There's a gap.
Right?
And so you just pick up 1 extra stitch and then the next round you knit 2 stitches together and it gets rid of that gap.
Nice.
Well, you knit so you have to knit the 1 stitch from the stitch on the waist yarn and 1 stitch that you picked up. Yes. And that closes the gap.
Okay.
I thought that was brilliant.
That is nice. Yeah. No, I don't think you've talked about that before. Or if you did, I wasn't listening.
Yeah, really. But I thought that was a really good technique because then you don't have to go back and patch that little hole.
Right.
And it's one of those little techniques that you think to yourself, gee, why don't all patterns do that? I never thought about that. I always pick up the exact number, but this is a really great idea.
That is, and see, this is kind of from my perspective. I like it because there have been times when I've been making something that, especially when I was a newer knitter, where I'd be making something and there would be a little hole, and I would think, oh, I don't know why that's there, but oh well, I'm just going to cheat, and I'm going to grab a little piece of this and grab this stitch and knit those two together and close them up. And I always felt like that was cheating. And
no, you're not cheating.
Well, and there's probably times where that's not good to do, but it makes me feel kind of good that okay, all those times that I did that, I probably wasn't cheating. I was just making a fix.
Yeah, you're making a fix. Yeah, so you're officially correct.
I like to be right.
So anyway.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, I'm making progress on that, and as I say, I hope I'll have it done for stitches. And then I started another sweater. So do you remember I've been looking at the last episode I was talking about making the Snowflower, which is by Heidi Kermeyer, or Wintersaal by Jennifer Steingast, and they're both they're both having, that yoke is all patterned. And I've decided I'm going to make Snowflower. There was actually feedback in the discussion thread that I should make Snowflower, so that's what I'm going to make.
Okay.
But based on what you said, Callie, and I do listen to you, I think I need to spin. So for the contrasting colors in the yoke, I think I need to spin something instead of going out and buying yarn. I have enough fiber. I think that there's no reason why I should go buy something. So
except that you're going to Stitches.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Not to throw a monkey wrench in this. No, I think you'd really like having some hand spinning with that 13 mile, because it's that kind of yarn.
Well, and it says it's worsted weight, and actually I've not done a swatch yet. It says it, but it's a 2-ply, and I don't know. I went to the yarn shop near me. I went there, and I really didn't see anything that felt like the 13 mile. Right. So I think spinning something is kind of a nice idea. And I have some just natural colored yarn. I think fiber. I think I have a black merino. I think would be really nice in there. Yeah. And I actually have some Targhee that I spun. That might work. But again, I was talking about this before. I need to do some swatches and do a swatch with some color work to see how they look. Targhee may not be the right fiber for it, because Targhee is kind of springy, right? Yeah. And plump and springy, and this yarn doesn't feel very springy to me. So I need to do some playing around. So anyway, I just wanted to cast something on and get going. So I finished my combo spin, the second one. I finished that. And I've washed it, and I have a little over 1,000 yards, which I think is going to be enough for a pullover. So the pattern I'm making is Simple Summer Tweed Top-Down V-Neck by Heidi Kermeyer, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry. And you can either make it a V-neck or a crew neck. And the pattern shows it with the hem and the cuffs and the collar are just stockinette that you let roll. I don't care for that. I think that looks sometimes, but it's not something that I want. So I'm going to put, I'm going to do ribbing on the bottom and the cuffs and the neck. All
right. Well, and you could do that edging like I have on I think both the Lavender Honey and the Havana have an edging they're similar, where it does a couple of rows of reverse stockinette, and then a couple of rows of stockinette, and then a bind off. And it makes a nice. Well, and it rolls towards the body, right? Well, so it rolls toward the body, and then it rolls back out. It doesn't look like it's rolled. It just looks like you have ridges, but those ridges are created because of at first it rolls one way and then it rolls the other way.
Right.
Yeah.
Where this is just, you just do all stockinette, so it rolls away from the body.
And then it looks like you have an inside out piece sticking out.
Yeah. And I think it's okay on some
either.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that look either. So I might do that edging that you're talking about.
I like it. It's nice. And you could experiment, with how many rows of reverse stockinette you need, and then depending on how big of an edging you wanted. But I thought it was really nice. When you come down, you can look at my 2 sweaters, and see it, and see if that's really what you want to do, because you're doing top down, right? Yeah. Top down V-neck. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, and the other thing I'd say about the yarn that I made, I remember I said to you, I was sort of not disappointed. That's too strong a word, but I was kind of surprised at how much blue is in here. And I thought, it's going to look so much like the first one I made. Mm-hmm. They look really different. Now that I'm actually, now that they've been plied, it's a 3-ply. Now that it's been plied, it's been, wound into a ball, and now I'm actually knitting with it. Mm-hmm. It's much more brown and ochre colored and warmer colors than the other one. The blue there's definitely blue in it, but it's not as blue as the other one.
Well, I'm looking at your project page, and I see that in your swatch you have a section that is pretty blue, but again, your swatch is so much narrower than the whole width of the sweater that those blue chunks are going to be in the body of the sweater. They're just going to be like not even a whole stripe all the way around the body.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and this is also, here's the thing too about spinning. I was trying to spin worsted weight, but I don't know what I'm doing, Kelly. I ended up with, I don't know what happened, but and I don't know what, well, here's something, and we talked a little bit about this, but we haven't talked about it in the podcast. The first combo spin I had, what did I say? I had 18 ounces. And I ended up with about 1,200 yards. This combo spin, I have 21 ounces, or I had 21 ounces of fiber, and I ended up with about a little over 1,000 yards. Just like, a little over, it's like 60 yards more than 1,000. So I'm like, what happened? Well, I thought, well, it does have silk and alpaca in it, which are heavier and denser, right? So it would affect the weight, but it might affect the yardage. So that's what I was thinking. But then I didn't have one of those little things to measure your wraps per inch. Mm-hmm. So I ended up buying one, $12 for a piece of wood that's just imprinted with.
Like a ruler, right?
Like a ruler.
With notches, yeah. But it's nice. But it's got a nice really tool to have.
Well, it has a really cute sheep on it, and my ruler doesn't have a cute sheep on it. Anyway, I measured it, and it's Aran weight. I don't know how I was trying to get worsted, but I'll say I'm not really good now at, well, I'm learning, and I've learned a lot about spinning, and I think I'm a pretty good spinner, but the one thing I really need to figure out is how do you say, I want to spin DK, I want to spin, make sock yarn.
Well, it's sort of antithetical to the kind of relaxing nature of the combo spin. The relaxing and fun nature of the combo spin is you have all this different fiber and you just grab it and go. Mm-hmm. And so trying to get a certain weight, I mean, lots of people do it. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but for what you were doing and what you were wanting from that combo spin, just sort of an obsessive, I got to spin more. Trying to get a certain weight is sort of antithetical to that. Yeah. But
and let me just say it doesn't bother me at all that it's Aran weight, it's fine with that. I was just sort of curious that I actually bought more fiber, but it ended up being less yardage.
Yeah.
And
it might have been the type of fiber was easier to spin thicker. Mm-hmm. It might have been, remember your wheel was having some issues?
Yeah.
It might have been that the tension in your wheel was making it so that the yarn was not as thin as the yarn you had done before. Yeah, hard to say.
It's hard to know. I like knitting I'm knitting with it right now. I like knitting with this yarn. It's very different than the first one because the first one we think was it was an unknown wool, but I think it was What did I think it was?
Rambouillet, I think is what you
Rambouillet.
said.
Yeah. I think it was Rambouillet. Someone at thought it was Rambouillet. This has I can't remember now everything that's in it, but it does have alpaca and silk in it, and that's giving it a real kind of sheen to it.
Oh, nice.
And like the silk is really definitely catching the light, and it feels different. It feels slicker in my hands than the other. I like it.
Oh, good.
It's been fun. This is my new obsession, and we talked about this before, but I'm starting a third one. I haven't started yet. I've been getting fiber for it. Really interesting. It's truly just a captivating project.
Well, maybe when you're here, of course, we have so many things on the list, as with that prefix. Well, maybe when you're here, we can do some dyeing, and I'll dye up some of that Lincoln, because I really think I'd like to do a compost bin, but I have this Lincoln roving, and I think that would be really fun. Do an over-dyed version of a compost bin for, I don't know, I have the need for a couple of different rugs, and that might be fun. I have the need for some upholstery fabric. That might be fun. Like seat cover kind of thing. So
for the car?
No, I hadn't thought about that. That would be
That's
fun,
so
wouldn't
funny.
it? No. I was thinking of my sewing machine bench, and then there's a wooden bench that was my grandmother's. Aunt Betty bought it for my grandma, and so Aunt Betty has it, and it's here in the house. And I have a rug that I made out of Pendleton selvage edges. I started it when we lived at the other house, and then I actually, hemmed it and washed it several years later living here, and there's no real place to put it here, so I've folded it up and stuck it on that wooden bench. But it'd be nice to have something that really was made to go on the bench, as opposed to, a cushion that was made to go on the bench, as opposed to a folded up rug.
Yeah.
So that's what I was thinking too. There's a couple of places where it might be kind of fun to use some of that compost spun yarn. So,
well, and I was thinking too with my compost bin is I did buy some more braids, 2 more braids because I was concerned I may not have enough for I would like to make a cardigan with like a shawl collar or something. And since I was a little unsure now about yardage and ounces and my spinning, I thought, well, I'll get 2 more braids. And then I was thinking, maybe if I want more, I was thinking, should I buy another braid? And then I thought about dyeing some of the roving I have. But I was thinking the other night, I have all this natural colored fleece. I have kind of a gray Shetland, and I have this black merino that I was talking about. And I also have sort of a kind of a wheat colored or a tan color. I'm trying to think. I think
CVM?
It's a Shetland too.
Oh.
No, it's not the CVM. I spun all of that. It was something. Anyway, I was thinking maybe I could just throw in some of the natural colored fiber too.
Right.
Just in like that dark black color or the gray, that kind of like a silvery gray. That might be kind of pretty in there too. Just throw in undyed yarn.
Yeah.
Or not yarn. I always say undyed fiber. Yeah. Anyway. Combo spins, endlessly fascinating. They really are. Yeah. So when I come down, I think we should dye some. That would be really fun.
I'd like to get started. I haven't been spinning for a while, so. Well, there's one other thing that I wanted to talk about this episode. I had kind of a special request. I think it was Jen, Pearl Girl Jen, who said she hoped that we'd be talking about my winter honey and the bees in the next episode. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about that. Let's see, not last weekend because I was out of town, but the weekend before that, we had a pretty nice day, and I knew that the bees had honey on the hive. One of the hives especially I had done an inspection, and they had an entire box of honey that was unused, and we were about to, the nectar flow was beginning. And so I knew that they weren't going to need this for the winter, and I needed to take it off. So I might have talked about this 2 weeks ago because I had purchased a gadget that you stick between the boxes of the hive so that the bees will go down into their cluster and then they can't get back up into the box with the honey. I think I did talk about that last time. But anyway, I used it. It worked great. There were some stray bees. Not sure whether the gadget allowed some to come back or if there were some that just didn't follow the program. They didn't read the instruction manual.
I say they didn't get the memo.
Yes. And didn't go down into the cluster. They stayed up with the honey. So maybe there are about 20 or 30 bees in the box with the honey, but that's way better than what normally happens. Normally in a box of honey, you have quite a few bees. I mean, hundreds. My first beekeeping season, I wasn't planning to take honey. I wasn't planning to take the whole box of honey off, but I pulled one frame out. And because I used foundationless and because it was warm and maybe I was a little less than careful, when I pulled the frame out, the big, heavy thing of honeycomb fell off.
Uh-oh.
And then it broke, and then honey was spilling everywhere. And so then I ended up having to take out more frame. Anyway, that was super traumatic for me. Turned out not to be quite as bad for the bees as I thought it was. They can live submerged in honey for quite a while. And then someone comes and cleans them off and they emerge and live to forage another day. But it seemed like carnage. I mean, there were hundreds of bees that were now covered in honey and, as far as I could tell, lost, going to die.
Well, and not just instantly dead, but dying a slow and painful, it was a suffocating death. Yeah,
yes, a very sweet death.
Terrible.
But yeah, so I was like almost in tears. It was horrible. And, trying to get the bees off, when I tried to sweep them off, they'd get honey on them. They were stuck. They were stuck to me. Anyway, so this was so much better than that. So I was able to just take the whole box off, which was super heavy. I had to put it in a wheelbarrow and take it to the garage. And then when I got to the garage, there were only about 20 bees, and I was able to kind of blow on them and get them to fly away and go back home. So then I had all this honey, and I strained it. But because it was the winter's honey, it had been sitting over the winter, it was starting to crystallize. And some of the plants that my bees forage on are more likely to make crystallized honey. The honey's more likely to crystallize faster. Toyon is one of those, and mustard is another one. It was there were grains. So it blocked my filters, because I have these filters that go on top of the buckets. So, plus it wasn't warm. So, it's not really super liquid and flowing.
Right.
So I have the buckets in my car, and I'm trying to get them to drain, and they're not draining. And there's all this honey sitting on top of the filter, because now the filter is all clogged by little sugar crystals from the honey. So I took one honey had drained, and I jarred it up. And then I took the stuff that hadn't drained, and I just scooped it all into a double boiler and put it on the stove and heated it up so it was liquid, and put it into jars. But, the normal honey collection process, if it filters properly, it filters down into a bucket, and the bucket has a spout. So neat. So tidy.
Yeah. No, but not this case.
You just open the spout, let it pour into the jar, close the spout. You might have a few drips, right? Between jars, you might have a few drips, or it's possible you might not close the spout quite fast enough and get a little extra. No, I was scooping honey from one bucket to another, and scooping honey from the filters into the pan, the double boiler. I felt like, even when I was super careful, I felt like droplets of honey were leaping out of any container and onto me. It was in my hair and on my face.
Kelly, I can't even go buy honey at the store and get it home without getting sticky hands.
Yeah.
Because even the jars in the store are sticky.
Yeah.
So I can't even imagine what your condition was after this.
At a certain point, I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to, all the clothing is just going to be stripped off. Everything I could have possibly touched is going to be wiped down. And, the doorknobs had honey on them. The cupboard doors had honey on them. The floor had honey. Anyway, it was a mess.
The dogs had honey on them. Robert had honey on him.
It was about 30 pounds. The box of honey was about 30 pounds. And all told, when I got done, I had about 20 pounds of honey. And so the rest of it was wax. Mm-hmm. So now, and then I melted the wax down, although that doesn't work very well. It may be nice, pleasant temperatures, but it's not quite hot enough for a solar wax melter to actually work quite yet. I mean, it's working a little bit if you put it in the right spot, and it's been out for a while, and it's been able to melt and cool over several days. So yeah, it took me longer than usual, but I got honey into jars, and it's already all crystallized. Even the stuff that I heated up to put in the jar is now starting to crystallize. When, like, honey from a beehive, close to nature honey, just harvested honey, when that crystallizes, or at least when mine crystallizes, it's not that super grainy, crunchy, sugary crystallization that happens with, like, store-bought honey when it crystallizes. So it's pretty smooth still. And so you can spread it if you want, or you can heat it up and use it as liquid honey if you just heat it a little bit. So I've been giving it away to people. But yeah, they were able to forage for most of the winter because we did not have a lot of rain. Mm-hmm. And our winter season is short anyway. They can forage for most of the winter regardless. And there's nectar through most of the winter because of eucalyptus and ivy and some of those other acacias now starting, and all the fruit trees are starting too. So anyway, that was my honey experience.
So I have a question, because you're calling it winter honey. Is it different than some other honey that you would get in the summer? Is it a different color? Because they had a different food source too.
Some of it. No, mostly I'm just calling it winter honey because it was the honey that they either made in winter or went into the winter with. And it is true that the stuff that was the most crystallized that I didn't even attempt to put into my strainer was super dark. Mm-hmm. And I think that was what they were gathering at the very end of summer, like July and August, what they put away for their winter. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure that a good portion of that was toyon. I'm not positive, but we have quite a few toyons in the yard and in the neighborhood. There's a lot in the vicinity, and the bees really like them. So I know that at a certain point, probably the majority of the nectar they're bringing in is from the toyons. And then the book said that toyon honey is quicker to crystallize than some other types, which it was crystallized. And then it also says that it has a spicy flavor, and this darker honey really has like a tang to it. Mm-hmm. That at first I thought, is it fermented? But no, it's got a real kind of a sharp tang. I thought it was interesting. I don't know if everybody would like it, but I thought it was really interesting. And then the other part, the part that was more liquid that I thought was just going to drain, was much lighter. And I'm guessing like ivy and eucalyptus and those, because those make a more clear, a lighter colored honey.
Okay.
So, but it's, I'm not positive. I don't know enough. Well, and I'm in an area where the foraging is so mixed. Mm-hmm. If I was in a really rural area, I would know either it was all, something from a crop, or, if I was surrounded by fields, or I would know if they're foraging, like out at Fort Ord, certain times of year, if they were just in a wildland area, the only thing that would be available would be like sage, or the only thing available would be toyon, or, there's much less going on. But in a neighborhood, you have a really wide variety of stuff that people have planted.
Yeah.
So, which brings me to another thing I just wanted to mention, and that is that there are a lot of people who would like to do something for bees, and maybe can't have beehives or don't really want to have beehives. But there's a lot of talk about planting for bees. And I think I would recommend, if anybody is interested in planting for bees, the thing I would suggest first is a tree. Mm-hmm. Because, think about how many blossoms on a tree.
That's true.
Compared to an annual or a perennial. Mm-hmm. And if not a tree, maybe a shrub. Something that is a good pollen source or a good nectar source. And you can look those things up. Depending on your area, the plants will be different. But trees are really good because there's a lot of forage right in one place.
Yeah.
Look into tree varieties that are good for your area, that are either good pollen or good nectar sources. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is water. If you want to do something for bees, have a water source. Like a bird bath is good. Mm-hmm. Something that's not slippery. You can even do like a bucket with sticks. I have it's the inside of an old crock pot that I have a bunch of rocks in, and then I have a bunch of sticks sticking up, and then I have water in it. So they can crawl on rocks or crawl on sticks and get down and get water.
Because they need something where they can have access to the water, but not like...
fall in.
Like it can't be like a bucket that they have to go down into. There's nothing to land on, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
The water has to be at the edge of something that they can...
Right.
Yeah.
And it's good. Even if they can sit on the edge, sometimes they do fall in. And so if there's something in there that they can, rocks sticking up or something where they have a chance to kind of find another edge to grab onto, you won't have, drowning bees like in a pool, right? That's the problem that people have with their swimming pools, is that bees are looking for a water source, and it's a big water source. It's very attractive. And so they come down and they go to get water from a pool, but then they fall in. They might sit at the edge, but then they fall in, and then they can't get out because there's
like, for them, it's like falling in the Pacific Ocean, right?
Exactly. There's nothing to grab onto to help them get out. So, and if you have a water source for bees, the one important thing is that it doesn't dry up. Mm-hmm. Because once they find something, they go back and tell everybody else where to find it.
Oh, okay.
But then once it's not there anymore, they'll find something else, and it's hard to get them back to where they were if it dries up.
Okay.
So a consistent water source is good.
And keep it fresh, right?
No, actually, it doesn't need to be fresh. They like stinky water better.
Oh.
Like my water that's on rocks and has sticks in it, that crock pot inside that has rocks and sticks. Occasionally I'll fill it up so it overflows a little. Mm-hmm. But no, it's got algae and all kinds of stuff. But I think, they get some benefit. They must, because they like those kinds of water sources really well.
These bees, man. Don't you wish you knew what was going on inside their heads, their little brains?
Yeah. Yeah. It would be interesting. Very interesting. So yeah, trees and water sources are something that people can do if they're trying to think of, they want to be able to do something for bees. And both of those things are a benefit, not just to honeybees, but really importantly to the native pollinators, bumblebees and sweat bees and all the different all the other pollinators that are out there, butterflies and other things. So anyway, it's a little bit of...
And it sounds like it's pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's, you have to be consistent. I'm not that good with the water source, which is why I have a big bucket.
Yeah.
A big container in case I forget. They can still climb way down in there on the sticks and get water.
Yeah. Stinky water.
Right. Right. I'm not very good about keeping my bird baths full.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't. I used to have a bird bath, but I don't have it anymore. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, it's funny here. The birds like the bird bath, but what they really liked in my garden was if you had any dusty bare patches of just dirt. Mm-hmm. Years ago, when we put a new lawn in, and we had, before we actually got the seed in, we had just leveled everything out. And I look out the window and there's all these little divots in the lawn, or the dirt. And then I realized it was the birds having little dust baths in that. And there's hundreds of those little divots. It was they really like dust baths too.
Well, like the chickens.
Yeah.
Well, when we first got the chickens and I looked out and they were all doing the dust bath thing, I thought they were all dying. Oh my God, what's wrong with the chickens?
That's funny.
Flopped over on their side and flapping.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, the next time we record, we'll be together.
Yes.
So.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
You better go pack.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you said about you better go pack, because I've, as I talked about, I started this second sweater out of the compost bin. But what I really need to do is figure out what is my good travel knitting for. I'm less concerned about going down to California, but the trip. Mm-hmm. Well, no, the trip to Scotland.
Oh,
because I don't want to pack a sweater.
Right.
I need to do well. Actually, I was laughing. You know what's going to go to Scotland with me, Kelly?
The Pismo beach socks.
And I was thinking I should take those to the beach and just really try and finish them. And I thought, no, I think they need to go to Scotland with me.
Yeah, definitely. That would be a good place to finish them.
Yeah, it'd be a good place to finish them. But I also need to bring either something else to start another pair of socks, or I need a shawl or something that'll keep me busy for, all this knitting that I'm going to be doing 10 hours each way on the plane, and 4 or 5 hours on a train, and then all this knitting that we're going to be doing with all these interesting people that we're going to meet at the festival. So I need a shawl or some more socks or something.
Oh, maybe you'll find some
small projects,
some prospects at Stitches.
Yes. Well, and actually, before we go, we do need to go. But are you going to buy something at Stitches and cast on?
I think I am.
You're going to try?
Because I won't have anything. If I finish my Indigo Frost, all I'll have left is the Summer Fjord.
Okay.
That's it of knitting.
Yeah.
And so I'm. That's a little stressful to me though, because normally I swatch and I plan.
Yeah.
And I don't usually. I mean, occasionally I do, but I normally don't just.
It'll have to.
If it's socks, I could do it.
Yeah, it'll have to be like socks or a shawl where gauge isn't quite so important.
Right.
You just know that you want to find sock weight or something.
Right.
And then,
although I mean, I could swatch. I have plenty of time.
Yeah.
But some of the planning and like nothing with color where you have to figure it. But well, I'll have to see. I really like the Dragonfly Fibers Rustic Silk. Mm-hmm. And I love that T-shirt that I have, the Havana made out of that. And I do think I'm going to check out their booth and see if there's more of that catches my eye. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know. Possibilities.
All right. I'm excited about it. Okay, we'll say goodbye.
All right.
I'll see you in California.
See you soon. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com. We have links for iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, and others.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2Us
doing our part for World Fleece.